Welcome to another video, and in this video we're going to review Saturn2 by FabFilter. I would like to say thank you to FabFilter for letting us try the plugin. The first version of Saturn looked like this. In the second version we have a completely rebuilt interface. So as you can see, it's pretty sleek. The original version came out almost 10 years ago, so it was about time for FabFilter to put a new version out. As far as algorithms of distortion, this was the original list. Now we have a much more organized list and also expanded. So we have tubes with different types of tube distortion, tape. Then we have a amp with different types of emulations of amps. Then we have a saturation folder with different types of saturation, transformer, and effects with the more creative types of distortion. Now, the major improvement was for me in the user interface. As you can see, it's pretty sleek and everything is more modern and clean. But also the user experience was much more improved. In the first version, there was already this section, which is the modulation section. But it was quite messy and not so intuitive to me. Let's hear it in action. So this is a little loop. The difference is very subtle, but you can, if you wear headphones, you can clearly hear the tape. Another improvement was the introduction of oversampling. Here we have an high quality mode with good and superb, which in my opinion it will consist to 4 times oversampling and maybe an 8 times of oversampling, which is extremely important in distortion. Then we have a linear phase switch, which comes handy for processing on the mix bus. Saturn2 is a plugin for both sound design and mixing. Thanks to the modulation section, here I have prepared a little example of dynamic distortion, which is, in my opinion, one of the key things that makes Saturn2 worth to have in your arsenal of plugins. Here I simply put an envelope follower, which is this one. So you can insert envelope followers and select the trigger. In my case, I selected the transient here because I wanted to drive the distortion only when the transient occurs. So you can shape the release, the attack. And so you can make the sound of the distortion more dynamic. Here I have another example of modulations. In this one I played with the drive and with the dynamics. The dynamics knob allows you to select if you want to have a more dynamic or if you want to have a more flat response on the distortion. Every time the transient hits, it's going to make the transient more dynamic, and then it will quickly come back to a more flat sound. And then I mapped a slider here to bring more or less feedback. Feedback is very powerful for sound design. You can select the feedback frequency from here. And get really cool textures. I showed you all these different settings, but they were all in a one-band mode. And Saturn2, in my opinion, shines when you use it in multiband mode. So by clicking here, you can create bands. And another major improvement is the fact that you can select different slopes for the crossovers, so you can make it more soft or more apparent by selecting from 6 to 48 dB per octave of slope. So we can choose, for example, to saturate just this band. Another super handy tool is the tone, which was present also in the first version of Saturn. You can do an EQ, more than it's not like a parametric EQ. It's more like an internal tonal balance of the band, and you can scoop, for example, like I did this band, and you also have an overall level, this one for all the bands, so you can really reshape the sound of the original source. And those were all the major features. You can also work in mid-side mode From here you can switch to mid or to side. It's really handy for mix and mastering duties. You also have a mix, so you can use it, for example, in dry-wet mode. And as every FabFilter plugin, it looks simple, but in reality it's very complex. You can also assign sidechain triggers to the dynamic sources of modulation. In my opinion, this plugin is not for producers who started to produce from a little time. It's for more expert producers or sound designer and mix engineers, because the learning curve is a bit tough. This plugin in the wrong hands can actually make more harm than good, especially for the possibility to split in frequencies. But if you do electronic music, or if your genre requires a lot of detailing, sound design, then Saturn2 is the solution to go. On the website, I believe that there is a trial, so I invite you to download the trial and try it. It works extremely well also on mixes and on the master as a mid-side saturation plugin. In my case, it replaces the BX saturator, because here you can switch to mid-side. It works like this. Okay, so here you can choose, for example, let's make a band like this. If I want to saturate just the mid, or here, if I want to saturate just the sides. So the possibilities are endless. Also, if you want a one-for-all solution, a lot of different algorithms, then this is the solution to go. It is not a solution for people who want a one-style knob plugin. I will recommend, if you want something simpler, like Decapitator, or the one knob plugin from Dada Life, or something like really simple, like this one from Klangenheim, which is free, or just the internal plugins native in your DAW, like Ableton's Saturator. That's it, and I hope that you liked the review. That's it. I hope that you like the review. I don't like to give votes, but if I had to give a vote, for me it's a total 9, because FabFilter, as usual, takes their time to do updates. And this is a great update, and that's it. Bye. Ciao.